Good evening and welcome to the final session of today. I request Professor D.M. Arora to chair this session, sir.
So the last speaker of the day and in the last session of this program, Professor M. Krishnamurthy, everybody in this hall I'm sure knows, but I will read out the handout. Professor MK is a leading expert on high power, high intensity, short pulsed lasers, especially in the laser matter interaction. He heads group at TIFR Hyderabad on ultra-fast studies on laser matter interaction. Currently, he is Dean TIFR Hyderabad, and as Ravindra was saying, it is the future of TIFR. So, MK.
Thank you, Professor Arora. I'll try to be as quick as possible. And unlike the other talks we have had, I don't know what the definition of landmark here is, because we have got the land, we are trying to make the mark. But before I start, there are some people whom I thought we all should remember and acknowledge for sure, because they have contributed immensely, and there are errors already even in this 10 years. Professor Vengalekar was a pre-TCS before the so-called TIFR Hyderabad was born. He was a coordinator, getting the activities together for people to find what are the spaces where we can think of an activity for TIFR expansion, TIFR Hyderabad, which became later. And of course, Rajaram Nityanda, Sriram, Professor Chandrasekhar have been the center directors once the activity started. We had Director Mustansir Burma, who was right at the beginning, then Sandeep and Jairam now. Professor KVR Chari was really crucial and essential for this Hyderabad. Without him, I don't think we would have had the place, and it would have been very difficult to imagine the kind of things we can hopefully imagine. Krishanu was a very crucial contributor at very initial stages. Sampath Kumaran and Professor Pillai have been troubleshooters, whether it is trying to get people together or trying to fund the bills of whatever we have to do. We also had a saga of one principal secretary who was one of the most dynamic persons who said, what are you talking about? Can you think of a place for 20,000 students? Why not? I mean, like the big American universities. Why are you only talking about 200 acres? Why not 2,000 acres? So very emphatically positive person, Mr. Pratap Reddy, and it was his really crucial role to facilitate for the state government to do this. Two states, because the state went into a division right at the beginning of as soon as our GO was signed, and then of course we had problems. 3 directors and 4 DAE chairmen, all of them supported this very well. And at July 2008, when we were looking for these places, we landed in Hyderabad, and the first steps took quite good routes. We could manage to convince the government that they should give the part of that land that was actually belonged to settlers of Hyderabad in the outskirts of their university, so that it was independent space which have our own access but contiguous to Hyderabad Central University, and that was a huge advantage. And of course, these things don't happen instantly. Even 3-minute Maggies, forget 3,000 minutes of Maggies required, maybe more. They have to convert it to the expression of interest has to convert to government orders, land transfers, and then the concept paper itself, whether we should have an institute of this kind of, I don't say institute, expansion of this kind for a second campus. This was the rough sketch I had scratched in 19th May 2012 when we made a presentation to the DAE PAC at Bhubaneswar, saying that we need some money to get going with what could possibly become the second campus. And as you can see, the land actually came in 3 parcels, 4 parcels, but 4th parcel is still under dispute. So let's not count that right now. So this is what we call as plot A, which is 143 acres, 66 acres, and a 3.5 acre piece. And this is, believe me, the most prime land of Hyderabad. There is financial district, there is all the best of activities being planned and expanded in Hyderabad are in a very close circuit to us. This is what we had planned, saying that, let the big master planners come and make the mega plans when we have more permissions and approvals. We will go with the first unit at 3.5 acres. And, we had to give what kind of new things we will do. And we put lots of things together because the initial concept was peanut laser and NMR was the major activities. And if I may say, the Bakras who were in the run for this. And lots of other activities being planned, biology, physics, chemistry, interfaces, soft condensed matter, areas that we don't have, and so on and so forth. And all these got sort of merged, thought through brainstorm sessions, discussions with different groups in Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, everywhere, whatever you can think of. And at the end of a lot of brainstorming, this was the vision plan that finally was presented. It talked about 3 things: unification of traditional disciplines and interdisciplinarity. Of course, this had been the strength of TIFR, and TIFR has been doing this, I think, essentially ever since TIFR took off. And we wanted to strengthen that because that is still something which is not that easy, that clear elsewhere. When you have people with physics, chemistry, biology, and put together, will they sort of dissolve each other or converge to something else? We know that how to do that, so we thought that is the best thing to do it. Convergence of fundamental science and applied science. We had this right at the origins. Today, last 2 days, when we heard like how different things had been happening in TIFR. So again, this is something that's not really new, but it's I would say, an old wine in a new bottle. And because people, if you talk about translational research, resource generation, technical transfers, and blah, blah, blah. So there are all these nice new committees, new words that are being formed. But, probably TIFR knew all this all along and has been doing, maybe forgot a little bit. So we thought that would keep us the emphasis. And then, of course, the possibility of synergy between teaching, research, and innovation, because more often we keep hearing that where there are students, there are no labs, and where there are labs, there are no students. So this was supposed to be a place where these things would come together. And then, of course, what kind of science we do. And quite frankly, it's very difficult to put TIFR science in any one particular way. And one of the attempts which seemed to have caught on and became sort of more acceptable or interesting was this concept of light, matter, and life with scientific computing and modeling in the middle. There are many people who say that if you talk about all these 3 things, and what else is left? But still, there are things we know that are still have not rooted in Hyderabad for possible not exclusive inclusion of them in this triangle and this circles around. The initial vision was eventually we will have 250 faculty, 2,000 students, 500 postdocs, and to be hopefully able to spend 2,500 crores in 10 years. And this is what we had dreamt about. And then, of course, we know that this is something that is going to be very big. It's not going to come in a day. We need to do this in a series of steps and timelines and what we can chew at any given time. So phase 0 was the initial plan to have a quick first building, not sort of be part of maybe the legacy of Bhava in terms of art, architecture, and the finesse and the sort of grandeur of the place, but something that we can get going, start putting the labs, start putting students and start graduate school programs and things like that. So we planned a small entity with about 25 different closely related disciplines that can be supported, 25 people, not 25 disciplines, but in these lead areas that we have been talking about, and then later expand research into new areas, new paradigms, create a contemporary facility for cutting edge research, promote new initiatives, and right at that time we were calling it TIFR 2.0. Then this started having first develop what kind of space, and there are a lot of, I know none of you can read this, but there are a lot of people who have claimed that they would be happy to come to Hyderabad, and their names and their labs are still there. Well, all this further moved on and to the good feel of everybody. In October 2010, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh laid the foundation stone for the new campus, unveiled a plaque, and we were really at the new beginning. We started working quite vigorously to convert that idea maps into more palatable building structures and layout designs. And this is the design that final layout that was finalized by 2009. And then we realized that, you know, with the DCACM and with the kind of things that we are trying to do, things may not go as fast as we want. So right at that stage itself, we thought like, okay, it's better to start rent a space and see how we can get going even before the buildings come. This was it took about a year and a half for the architectural work to be completed with all the details, BOQs, building designs, what have you. And June 2012, the beginning of what we call as the first research and teaching block, funnily acronymed as FREDB, because when I was taking the minutes of this meeting, I was lazy not to write this more than once. And then unfortunately that became the acronym in the DAE and everywhere. So as I said, we didn't wait for things to be completed. Right in December 2010 itself, in few months, we hunted out for rental campus. And you can see here, there was nothing other than this building at that time. It was built for a managed hall, which was not going to take off anywhere soon because the 2008 recession killed most of the activity in that area. And then we got a very good space, which was not exorbitantly expensive for us to take. So we had a 4-storied building, about 10,000 square feet per floor, all for ourselves to be able to modify the way we want. It was just a shell initially, so we could completely change the way we want. And we did lots of things there. We built labs, but even before the labs, within very, very quick succession, we started taking, started activity there. But even that few gaps of months where, you know, things had to come, things had to move and so on. This is the nice narrative of Professor Nityananda. He was the only person in a 40,000 square feet place with one table, one chair and one computer. And he would have to go almost 8-10 kilometers to have a cup of coffee or a lunch. But very quickly, we started having different meetings, workshops, and things slowly started. Students started trickling down. And of course, the major change was we had Sriram come over as the center director. And so we started off very quickly the graduate school program in physics. By 2012, we had already a few students, and very quickly, as I said, you know, Sriram joined in VC, and there were a lot of early fast movers. In fact, it started getting to be called more of a soft matter physics place because the number of theoreticians and number of people who were interested in soft matter was so large that it looked as if we had planned it for soft matter physics, but that was not really intentional. And Sriram was quite clear right at the beginning, saying that, you know, okay, we have enough now soft matter, no more soft matter, no more StatMech. Let's start looking for people in other areas of physics, chemistry, and so on. So quickly, more and more people joined. We were hoping that the building will happen in a year or 2 years, because the rapid pace with which they did was so good, so fast, that we were feeling that we will not have enough time, and building has to vacant after getting completed without us occupying. But then the company that we had had its own financial troubles. Things got delayed, but that didn't deny us from doing whatever we wanted to do. More students, more groups, and the numbers kept growing. The marriage hall was converted to HPC, to an NMR lab, to a laser lab, to a chemistry lab, what have you. Anything that people were found interesting to be able to come and do, we did whatever we could. As you know, these are sort of clean rooms that actually stood the test of better than class 10,000, made out of no great engineers, no great consultants, just a few of us who started putting whatever we could put together from materials that we could think of at that time. So we had a femtosecond laser quickly in very quick session and installed there. And it's a 8 femtosecond ultra short pulse laser. And many of you will probably know that these are sort of very crazy machines which have to be tendered very, very carefully. And if the things are not very good, they won't work. But luckily they worked. And in rapid progression, the science progressed in the place. And well, that took quite a few years, 5 years. So we were there in the transit campus for nearly 5.5 years. And whatever I'm going to talk about the science is going to be what we have done in the transit campus and what we have done after that. So we packed all our suitcases, all our computers, all our lab, equipment, dismantled all the things that and in about few months, we moved in trucks, maybe about 25, 30 of them, to bring all the equipment back to the transit campus. And by end of 2017, all of us were in the transit campus, and we did adios to this. And unfortunately, where we had the laser lab and the NMR lab are now a grocery store. So shifted to Fredby in 3-4 months, and more students. As you can see, this is 2017 symposium, and 2 floors was not enough. By the time we came close to this picture, which was maybe about a year and a half ago or a year ago, even the 3rd floor had to be sort of filled up to take a picture. So we have a decent facilities there now. Auditorium, of course, not of the class of Humibab Auditorium, but decent enough to house 150 people with all kinds of meetings. I thought some of these pictures would be good for those of you who have not seen, or of course, all of you are welcome to come, but if you're not seen it, at least this will entice you to come. Places where we can put posters, reasonably good gardens. Actually, if you see here now, this whole place is full of lot more trees than we had. There was not a single tree here at that time. And the new houses for some of the activities that was planned to be shifted. The National Facility of High Field NMR shifted to TIFR Hyderabad soon enough. And so let me now tell you what we have been doing for the past 5 years in the transit campus, and the 2-3 years in the main camp, or 4 years in the main campus after we shifted. As I said, this was not a lock, stock and barrel shift, because people started trickling down 1 per year, 2 per year. And as people came, we started expanding whatever facilities that are required. But the theme was light, matter, and life. So today we have labs in really all the 3, a lot of interfaces, a lot of nice activities. And so 32 faculty as of today, 31 faculty as of today, 1 more to join. Lots of students, 146 plus around 80. Lot of visiting students, about 25 plus PhD students have graduated. More than 550 papers have been written by people who have their address as TIFR Hyderabad, and a lot of papers actually coming from the Narsingi campus, which was a temporary transit building, and the main building. Of course, I'm not going to expect you to remember all these things. And we have the 550 was not just a number to sort of say that we've been doing a lot, but there have been real spikes in the spectrum. A lot of high-end journals being accessed by people who have been tenured by their work in the last 5-6 years. What have you? PhysRevex, PNAS, Small, Nature Communication, Nature Materials, JAX, PNAS, Angevantishemi, that is the PRL of chemistry people, JAX, so on and so forth. So lots of different activities have been happening. And of course, as I said, this is the interdisciplinary sciences. We don't have a department, but we don't even have a groups, but we see a progression of different sciences, how they intermingle. So we start with theory in computer science. We have people who works on interfaces of how, for example, a catalytic activity of how a gold can be used to break water, and all the charge transfer reactions that happen in molecular systems. A lot of material science, biophysics, conjunction, and also theory and computational chemistry. Smarjit is an expert in computational physics and soft matter physics. His favorite is glass transitions. He will talk about how non-equilibrium statistical mechanics can be used to define things which are not that easy to explain and progress in understanding. Prasad Parlekar is a fluid mech person, does a lot of computational work with biological physics and theory physics, like things like how bubbles change the whole dynamics of the flow, how having an active matter in a liquid changes the whole fluid dynamics and fluid mechanics of the system. Saroj is another StatMech person. He works on soft matter, bio, and glassy dynamics, how spins transitions happen, what is the relaxation time, how things go from one state to other without, and especially when things are complex. Kabir, some of you probably know, he was a PhD student at TIFR Bombay some time back. He's another statistical mech person, soft matter, computational physics, how non-equilibrium behavior at low temperature scales change, developing theories for some of these which novel physics that cannot be easily explained. I don't need any introduction to all, Professor Mustan Sharma Burma to all of you. He is a professor emeritus, has been with us now since his retirement from TIFR. Of course, he continues to do the StatMech of different systems. Jagannath is a border between chemistry and theoretical chemistry and theoretical physics. He works with how small molecules get embedded in big molecules, molecular dynamics. He works with condensed matter physicists, how charge transfer reactions happen. Lot of pure computational chemistry, theoretical chemistry. Raghunath is another person who can be sort of somewhere in between computer science, chemistry, and theory physics in terms of quantum mechanics and so on. So he has this expertise in big data, artificial intelligence, to be able to churn out a few million chemicals for a particular property, how to retrieve properties from fundamental structures and so on and so forth. So he has this very nice Moldis program that is open for public use, and it's a very nice fun thing to actually go and see, because you can throw some molecule and then you can say, okay, sort out all the million molecules for dielectric constant or whatever. So from the science without matter to drift to the science with hard matter. This is a laboratory of one of the condensed matter physics persons there. He does spintronics, and he has built up a fantastic setup which can really create any really complex topological materials, devices that can be fabricated, tested to do things related to topological insulators, spintronics, and quantum technologies and applications. So he's been there now for more than 5 years. TNN is a material science person. He does again things which are related to how to generate electrons using light, how to store the energy in batteries, graphenes, MOS2, how to make devices out of them. And he's one of the prolific publishers with really fantastic group working. Pavitra is more recent addition. He's a perovskites person, does interface between chemistry and material science and device making, trying to generate kinds of doped perovskites that are not easily available, or a very specific technique, at least at this stage, and how to use them for solar cells, LEDs, transistors, and so on and so forth. Pranav is again one of the students of TIFR Bombay, Sanjay Vadavankar's student who graduated with supersonic jet spectroscopy, but he does not do supersonic jet spectroscopy anymore. He's building up a neutral atom scattering based microscopy. Of course, there is atoms and scattering, but not infrared spectroscopies or the spectroscopies that he did in his erstwhile thing. He also makes, for some of these, there are very high wavelength controlled laser with a very nice line width that had to be made. None of these are available. So he actually has made, and is actually patenting it. And there are already companies which are interested in using his methods. He is setting up complete experiments to be able to look at catalysis from a fundamental perspective. For example, if a hydrogen lands on a surface with certain intermolecular energies like rotational quantum numbers, vibration quantum numbers, and the kind of rotation energy, molecular energy, does it stick, does it break, and what is the time that it takes, how does it break, and so on and so forth. Chaitanya is even more recent addition. He just joined about 3-4 months ago. He is actually expert in building lasers in a regime where the lasers don't exist. 4-micron lasers, 8-micron lasers, lasers that in this regime that can be pushed to femtosecond, picosecond, or CW depending on the applications. So he's raring to go. His lab is getting made. This is myself. I've been trying to do the kind of laser physics that we do here with 100 terawatt laser, but with only the 1 terawatt laser that I have. And we have found some very interesting ways of modifying a morphology of a liquid drop to be able to produce unusually large energy of electrons, positive ions. It can be actually now the emission strength and the repetition rate of the laser is large enough to be able to put a mouse paw and collect an X-ray with completely different kind of perspective. The beauty of this will, because the X-rays are not CW like what we get, but X-rays will be like sub-picosecond. So that one could exploit a lot more. We recently had Prashant Singh join us about 2.5 months ago. Prashant again was a PhD student of TIFR Mumbai. He worked with Professor Ravindra Kumar. He has worked in all the 5 petawatt lasers that are there in the world in all the different countries, US, Korea, Japan, whatnot. So he is setting up a new program on ultra-fast relativistic optics, how the electrons, as you push them to higher and higher relativistic velocities, how the whole plasma dynamics changes, how we can actually see them, how we can visualize, how we can optimize to be able to convert some of these generations into things that can be used for X-ray imaging, neutron imaging, and these are multimodal imaging because from one single source you get electrons, X-rays, protons, neutrons, and hopefully positrons when we have the petawatt laser. Chemical, not so chemical, because we have both people who can be characterized as pure chemical sciences people, but also, like for example, Kanchan, really we don't know where to put him because he uses fluorescence correlation spectroscopy. He's again a TIFR product. Sipta Maiti student left TIFR, worked in US for a while and then came back. He has built up more versions of the FCS that are now much more good at looking at real-time polymerization of molecules like fibrils, which are have a lot of neuro diseases that can be tackled. So he's both instrument builder. He has his own biochemistry set up to be able to make expression of some of these proteins that are crazy, and how to use them with the things to do biophysics mostly. So, and all of you probably know Professor Chandrasekhar, who is our center director at the moment. And he and Anupul Jana are the pure chemists who builds molecules that are not there. Crazy complexes with metals and all kinds of things around into form cages, structures that are very unusual, very difficult oxidation states, to be able to stabilize silicon in a oxidation state that is normally not possible, or carbon in a state that is bonding with a metal, and that can be used for many other applications. Kalyaneshwar is another chemist who is not pure chemist, but a biochemist. If there is a hemoglobin with left-handedness, he wants to make equivalent of that with right-handedness. And there are lots of reasons to do this, a lot of interesting applications that one can think of. But just the idea that you can make a really big macromolecular complexes to the design that you want, with L&D being switched over at your will. Ritesh is another new person who has joined about a year ago. He's another chemist, but with a lot of material science perspective. He how to build hetero molecular structures, which can be like filter carbon dioxide or send out H2 and so on and so forth. Very specific functionality to be able to create to matter. NMR group, all of you know the kind of NMR sciences that happens. The new addition here is not only the number of NMRs per PI, but also the solid state NMR. I think we have one of the really strong solid state NMR groups in this part of the world. And they look, of course, looking at protein structures, DNA, protein-DNA interactions, molecule structures. They're trying to acquire another big tool, the 900 megahertz NMR, and DNP, dynamic nuclear polarization, which is supposed to be one of the next big things that is happening in NMR. Chemical to more biological, we have people who are at the interface of chemistry to be able to create chemical stuffs to be able to crystallize proteins, but look at their molecular properties inside a cell and look at the molecular biology of this. So he has both a leg in pure chemistry, pure biology, and the interface between chemistry and biology. Kamal is a mechanical engineer who has become a biological physicist or scientist who looks at how the cell-cell interaction happens, how repair happens, how when we have a cut, how cells patch themselves up. And he does a lot of, uses a lot of physics, mathematics, and of course with techniques of microscopy and so on, and has been doing some fantastic work, which came in very nice journals. Apratim is one of the first, the so-called biologists we had, biophysics, a person who uses visible light microscopy techniques to look at tissue-specific differentiation, cancer development, and so on, genome organization, and so on. Adish is an animal house person. He uses, develops his own microscopy techniques, things like STORM, which will actually produce very, very nice high resolution images of things like neural synapses and how the sensory organs perform and their vis-a-vis the chemical correlations with synapses. Manish is a Drosophila geneticist who does a lot of molecular biology and regular biochemistry to look at things like mitochondrial biogenesis, neuronal health and so on. Ullas, all of you know, I don't need to say, he has now got a big home in Hyderabad, doing lots of stuff that he has started here and continuing with a lot more expansion there. Anish is another new person who joined about a year ago. He makes interesting molecules which can light up any part of the cell and organelle to make it visible for people to see functionality, applications, and so on. Mrinal is another person who joined less than a year ago. She's how the DNA repair and DNA breakdown happens. She uses a lot of radiation related things, how these things affect the system. So it's a quick run of all the different things that people have been doing. And as I said, you know, it's a very dynamic place. Everybody is excited to do things, and also, of course, you'll hear how they want to be more pushy to push things to take it forward. Lots of things on the kitty already, and going forward. Not only we have, as was the plan, you know, it's not only just pure science and research, but also something that can go more towards technology and innovation. And luckily for us, Rajiv, who was here, you know, there was a Newton-Bogus science program that ended, and then with a sort of serendipitous extension, we came upon this Extreme Photonics Innovation Center that was funded by UKRI. So it's a joint project with TIFR and RAL. Basically, the aim is to develop next generation technologies for laser-based accelerators. So we have almost 20 people working in different areas of how to produce the new age targetry thin films, which are like designed to 500 nanometers, 10 nanometers to a micron, but 2 kilometers in long. You know, these are things that you normally don't hear because it may be 1 inch piece or 5 millimeter, but we are talking about 2 kilometer long films that are very nicely designed. And there are lots of TFR people like Achanta Prabhuji, who is part of this activity. We have a detector stream, we have a control system stream, we have people who are working on mechanical engineering to be able to how to make optomechanics for this very large lasers, because you're talking about a 400 kg optic which has to be controlled and very precisely in vacuum without much of a jitter between vacuum and out of vacuum. We right at the beginning of TFR, the idea was to start a petawatt laser program, and we wanted to coin a name when Dr. Vyas was going to come and inaugurate it. Traditionally, all the big lasers in the world in US were named after Shiva, or the third eye of the Shiva, because people felt at that time this is the only thing that can come into close comparison. So Shiva was already taken, Trident was already taken. So we came up with Trishul, which is TFR research infrastructure for studies in ultra high intensity, ultra short lasers. So more than a normal imagination that we needed. But so the Trishul is coming up. Admira is another new program that is raring to take off. This is advanced research on metabolism, development and aging, how people, when they eat, where does the body mass come from? And what should I eat to build a particular muscle? Is there a scientific basis, and what is the genetic basis for the Indian diaspora? So these are the kind of things that they want to do. It's a close collaboration with BRC, almost like the joint center. Hopefully, it will develop into a very nice program. We have right at the beginning itself, science communication outreach that has been part of the system. We have a couple of people who have been helping us out with conducting visits with the students, with programs where we are going to the village schools or to even Tata Institute of Social Sciences to be able to teach to a journalist the basic physics or things like that. So that kind of activity has been going on right from the day one. And 2019, of course, we had the TIFR Hyderabad, the DPR got approved, 890 crores, but then the pandemic came, a lot of things became gone to a halt. Not that the work stopped, lab didn't stop, the activities didn't stop, I'll show you, but we want to go with a new beginning, and we started after the pandemic with having Baba Banyan being planted in TIFR Hyderabad with two directors, the founder one and the director and the present. So apart from, so very quickly we finished off all the space that we could think of there, and as the programs required, like somebody wants to start animal house based research, we don't want to say no to him. At the same time, we don't want to wait for 4 years. So what we did was, this is the 3.5 acre piece, and this is the 40 acre piece. This is right at the beginning point of this. It extends to another 1 kilometer at least. So what we did is we carved out about 4.5 acres of this place and started putting things. And these are two hostels that have come up right in the thick of the pandemic. Each of them got developed in about 6 months. In about 7th month, people are already actually staying in the hostels. So there are two hostels that are already up. 100 students are sitting there. And the Google is not able to catch up with us, because otherwise it should have shown a third hostel already. This got cleared about 3 months ago. And next month, the students will actually move in February. January to be completed, February students will move in. So we have two labs that are already built, and the permit that Ravi was showing didn't show up again, because probably the picture was taken about a month ago or a month and a half ago. So today, if you come and see, it is actually a lot different. So this is where we have the animal house and the bio labs. This is the physics and chemistry labs. This is where the pedagogy lab is going to come. These are the hostels. They're reasonably good looking and quite functional, and all the students are happy. So to have 100 people with almost zero complaint is not bad situation to be in. These are typical rooms of a hostel. These are the new bio labs that got occupied. I think about 4 months ago, we opened it, and then it's full on. This animal house that has already been made, 2,800 square feet animal house, completely tested with air conditioning and everything. The first shipment of the cages for the animals have just about arrived in. So in about a few weeks, we should be able to have the animals move in. And I don't think we'll have a housewarming ceremony for them, but this is the pedagogy block. What Ravi showed was the bare structure. This is the first architectural impression of what it is likely to be. It's not finalized yet. In the next few days, we'll finalize it to build a facade rather than along with the structure. So new beginning also has been made with the architectural work, as Jairam had already said. Just about 10 days ago, we had the INI Studios had the first kickoff meeting. This is their first impression. This is, of course, not the final one. It looks quite crowded, but it's this is when we have the full money to develop the full place, and the total amount of space that we can develop is close to 85 lakh square foot, and it took us 10 years to develop enough to be able to occupy 1 lakh square foot. So a lot more to do. This is another impression of the architect's work right now. Thank you. I didn't show it here. I didn't bring it here. So there is actually, we're given a walkthrough. Since it's, of course, not the final, but it's the preliminary version. I thought it may not be necessary to show it. Did I take too long?
On behalf of the chairman, Professor Aruna, I thank you. And I also thank Professor Aruna for chairing this session. And MK, this is a wonderful trip that you took us all to do. And he has really done a commendable job. He was building the hostel. Just amazing. So now we are through with this program. So now I request, what did you say? No. Now I request Professor G. Ravindra Kumar to say a few words. Yeah.
Just a few words. Thanks for all the patience that you have displayed from the time we conceived this program. And I think on behalf of all of us on the TAA committee which organized this, your support has been great, but we expect much more. Dil mange more, as they always say. So the association, two events, GS 15 2019 and this one, but there's so much more to do. And this is the first time we have actually engaged with the alumni. We didn't even know the email addresses. So that was a pathetic state we were in. Now we are on much firmer footing. So please get us in touch with more people, stay in touch, and also send money and tell us where to find more money so that we can have more such events. And I think the engagement has to be much more. I don't want to give speeches at the end of this, not a homily, but I think we are at a time when we need a lot of guidance. Times are very challenging in multiple ways. The situation has changed in the country, elsewhere, science has changed. Preeminence cannot be taken anymore for granted. And the governmental policies are certainly not, they don't seem favorable. In fact, science itself seems to be in some sort of, the view seems to be one of, I won't say, let me put it politically correctly, not so favorable. More emphasis on what can you give me tomorrow. Fundamental research of the type that yields long-term dividends doesn't seem to find favor. And the winds are changing, and how to withstand these winds. I think we need a lot of guidance from the alumni, from the experiences that you have, and also get us connected with people who can make a difference. And the uniqueness of TIFR that has come through in the last 2 days somehow has to be preserved. I mean, initially we had a giant in the form of Baba. We can't expect such giants to come every often. I don't know, probably once in century somebody like that comes. But what kind of vision, guidance can we take forward? And while it's presumptuous to say what the future will be, great people, we should continue to recruit and give them free hand. That has been Baba's policy. Maybe we can continue that. And I also think this is something that we have got, many people have talked about, that TIFR should become truly international. We need international faculty, international students in the new campus with beautiful hostels, Gachibowli, high-tech city infrastructure that you can generate. I think we can attract a lot of people to come from abroad, spend long times here as a start, and maybe stay on as faculty. So I think we should become something like that. And we need more help in getting all these ideas forward. And we need certainly more help in retaining and nurturing our autonomy. And I don't know how it will happen, but it has to happen. So thank you very much. And I leave it to Prabhu to do